Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a limp, and this is going to be kind of a new series that I'm throwing up, and it's just some filler content to help me out a little bit because it takes a little while to get the game learned, get it to the table, get it filmed, do all that stuff. I've been having a hard time. Kids have had a lot of medical appointments and stuff like that, so it's been holding me back. I've been a little slower as of late, if you've noticed, but figured I would go ahead and answer a few questions that I've been asked. And I've seen positive reception to me discussing these topics previously. I was like, all right, well, I'll go ahead and tell some stories. Plus, I figured if you guys want some of your stories told, you can take and email me at the link down there in the description. And if you want, I'll make a video about it. All right, so the first story I'm going to tell is one that I've told numerous times before, but I've never had like a video dedicated to it, so it gets asked a lot. And that's obviously why I'm called Gimpy, right? So a lot of you have heard this story before. If you have, you can turn off. But if not, I'll go over the brief background of it. And again, it's where I got this tattoo from. I don't know which is the best angle. My brother took a picture. That was the Humvee that I was in when I ended up getting wounded while I was deployed overseas. So long story short, second deployment overseas, and we're running combat missions in and around Fallujah, right? So I would be stationed in the city. I was stationed out at a base camp. We'd be running patrols, and I did comm, right? So I was the radio man that was in the Humvee. We had to have communication with the base, for any mission we went out. And didn't operate using cell phones. We had, combat radios and all that good stuff, so that's what I operated. And I also helped run what we call the Blue Force Tracker. I'm not sure what they're using now. I'm sure they use something much more advanced, and that thing was advanced for its time. So, pain in the ass to use, but advanced, cool stuff. Anyway, we are running, that wasn't 9-line missions. It was something else. Basically, we were just doing combat patrols, looking for the guys who were planting the bombs, right? So they would plant bombs and bombs, I mean IEDs, but they would plant bombs in dogs and people and sandbags and rubble. They dig up a section of the road and try to hide it. They would plant these things everywhere. So we were constantly running missions to find where they were placing these explosives and to try to catch the guys who were doing it, right? So I got tasked with this mission. And funnily enough, I wasn't actually supposed to go on this mission because I had just come back from a couple-week mission up farther north, and I think it was the Al Anbar province where I had been located there. We had taken some captives and brought them back to base, been there for a while. We got mortared. I slept through it. It was hilarious. I woke up the next day after that, and I'm like, oh, so tired. And everybody's like talking about this big explosion where mortar got dropped in the middle of our little base camp. I'm like, what mortar? What do you mean? What exploded? And they're like, you really tired, weren't you? I was like, yeah, I was pretty tired. I slept right through that. Didn't hear a thing. I was dead to the world. After you're awake for so long, you can get to where you can sleep through anything. But I wasn't supposed to go on that mission. I come back and I was requested for this mission. Our platoon didn't have an overabundance of competent operators, should I say. And I don't want to hate on some of the Marines, but some of them didn't have necessary training, I would say, to perform their mission under pressure. And they knew this one was going to be likely a hot mission, and they didn't want to have a guy who was going to crack or not understand how to fix something or whatever. So I was requested, and I was like, no, I'll go. I don't mind. And they're like, dude, you just got back. Like, you haven't even done the shit shower shave yet. I'm like, no, cool, no problem, I got it. My brother's going on it. I want to make sure he comes back all right. I'm like, okay. So we're over there. He was running with the gun trucks, my twin brother, and I was with the comm platoon. So I go get with the guys, and we had done an earlier mission weeks prior where we actually rode in the same Humvee, and the driver went down. I forget what happened to the driver on that mission, but I ended up jumping into the driver's seat, and we kept joking that it was like a video game because I was driving the Humvee and he's up in the gun turret. Like, damn, it's like a video game for real life, No reset button for this one. We laughed about that for a while, and we want to do that again. So I go jump in his Humvee. He's my twin brother. We grew up together. He's a little bit of a dumbass. He's a lot of bit of a dumbass, but he's family. And they're like, no, sergeant's saying, no, you guys can't ride together. If something happens on this mission and one of you guys gets killed, your family's going to kill me if, both of you guys go out in the same Humvee. Like, y'all got to split up. And we're like, all right. So since it was his platoon, I ended up having to move because that was his standard gun truck. They weren't going to pull him out of it. So they pulled me into the gun truck that ultimately ended up getting blown to smithereens with me inside of it. So to this day, I have always insisted that it was my brother's fault that I got blown up. And you guys back me up on that. It's his fault. All right, so we're running missions throughout this day. And I can't remember if this is the one where we took sniper fire earlier in the day or not. I don't think it was. I can't remember. But I remember we were doing 50-50 there for a little while where half the guys were racked out. That's why I'm thinking it was a different mission, because I think we got hit early in the day on the one where I got hurt. But the other one where we were 50-50, so a couple of guys are trying to rack out, a couple of guys stand and watch, and our armored Humvee starts taking shots like plinks from a long way off. And I kind of roll forward and like, what's going on? They're like, someone's shooting at us. Is it getting through the Humvee? No. All right, I'm going back to sleep. I mean, you just hit a point where you're so tired, you just don't care. Like, if I'm not going to die, I'm good. You guys handle it. Let me know when he gets closer. But on the one we got, where I got hurt, we go out rolling. And like I said, we're driving all over, right? So we're driving around Fallujah. We would set up stop points. We would check for suspicious activity. And the thing was, locals knew when something was going down, because you could tell the streets would get empty, like in a second. You're driving along, everyone's doing their little shopkeeping stuff, the kids are waving at you, that type crap. And then all of a sudden you turn a corner and the streets are deserted. And like, okay, we're going to get hit. Someone's getting ready to shoot. Someone's getting ready to blow something up. It's like, would be really nice if they would like wave at us. Hey, Mr. American man, they can shoot you. They over there. No, never told us that. But so we're running it, and we had a lot going on that day. I mean, it was like one thing after another. We had one where one popped off early. The guy ended up taken, and he blew it before our vehicles got to it. So we would roll with like 50 meter dispersion, almost 30, at least 30, but 50 meter dispersion between the vehicles. That way it would make it hard for them to time it and try to hit us. Because if we're right here on top of each other, they'll take and nail you. My brother almost got nailed by one of those one time because they fired an RPG at him while they were having to tow a Humvee. And I guess the guy who was firing the RPG figured, two Humvees hooked together, it's a larger target. RPG went right between them, right over that tow bar. And that's some stuff that'll pucker your butthole. But we're running it, and we're checking people. We're looking for that suspicious activity. But they caught on, right? They caught on to the things that we would look for, which was civilians, they wear sandals, right? Well, the bad guys, they would wear sandals, but they had boots on. So we started watching their feet. We started watching their hands. We would look for people who had cash. American cash was king there because after we had been in the country so long, like when I first got there, you could buy anything you wanted for $1. They quickly switched over to our currency, and a carton of smokes went from $1 to like $20, and we were pissed at the Army guys for getting them to jack their prices up. But you generally didn't see a whole lot of cash money on the civilians. They would have their money, maybe a few dollars of ours if they'd sold something to our guys. Because there was one time we had stopped some guys. They were acting suspicious, but what it was, they having car trouble. So we checked on them, we helped them out as best we could, and we noticed they had a bunch of cans of soda, like cases of soda in the back. So we think they were taking it to their shop to go sell, but they didn't speak very good English, and we didn't have an interpreter with us at the time for that specific moment. And we were like, can we buy soda? Can we buy soda from you? Wanting to buy something to put in our cooler. And they're like, here, take case. I'm like, no, we don't want to take, we want to buy. Like, we'll pay you for it. And I guess they'd had some bad people before because they, were just trying to give it to us. And I'm sure they were probably scared to an extent of us, but we weren't going to hurt them or anything. We weren't sure as hell weren't going to steal from them. And it's shopkeepers, right? But they loved us because our sergeant pulled a 20 out of his pocket and he grabbed the guy's hand. He's like, here. He's like, I take case, you take this 20. He's like, you 20? Yes, you take case, you take more case. We were like, no, you keep the 20. We'll take a case of soda. We'll call it good. And they love us. They were all huggy and sweet after that. Realized we're nice people. We didn't want to rob them or be mean to them. But we pushed on, and we decided it was about midday that we were going to set a trap. All right, and what we were going to do is let some of our guys get a little downtime while we were waiting, because we're going to be out there for a while. So we were going to go to a place we called the Tits. And the Tits was a couple of big hills right outside of Fallujah. You drive up the cleavage, if you were, circle around the top of that hill, and you could put a couple of gun trucks there on the top. You had good fields of fire, good view. You could see down to the highway. You could see, pretty much everything. So we could binoc the area, see what's going on, let one of our gun trucks rest for a little bit. And what we decided to do is we were going to have one gun truck a couple of clicks away, acting like they broke down, right? A few guys kind of meandering around, making it seem like the truck's down, but they're by themselves. We're tucked away behind these hills or at the top of these hills, hopefully just far enough away that they're not going to notice us, but quick enough that when they got hit, we could zoom down there and lay waste to shit. So that's what we were wanting. We were wanting some type of platoon-sized element to try to hit them and have them hold out until we came. It would have taken us seconds to get there, right? We knew the area. We knew how to get down to where they were. But we had used the Tits before, and I think we used them too much because they figured it out, right? So they knew we were coming back to those Tits. It sounds kind of bad when I say it that way. But my brother was in the gun truck that was set as our decoy. So I'm in I was actually in the sergeant's, the commander's gun truck. And there were 3 total that went up to the Tits, and there was one down there. So we had 4 gun trucks total. And the one is acting like they're messed up a little bit. They're like, okay, we're set. We're getting up there, and we're just getting ready to go. So, Marines lead the way. Leader leads the way. Sergeant's taking point. I'm in there. And what gets me is I was just in the front seat. We played musical chairs a lot because when you would get out and you would do whatever it was, if we were searching, if we were assaulting an area, if we were doing whatever, you didn't worry about getting back in your seat. You just worried about getting back in the damn gun truck and getting out. So there were times I was in the front, they were in the front, I was in the back. The driver tended to stay the driver just because he was the one driving, but the rest of us would just jump in whatever seat we could get into the quickest from where we were coming from. And we just rotated around. And I still feel bad for this because the sergeant in the gun truck was the one that got hurt the worst. And I was like, that should have been me, or it could have been me, because I was just in that seat and we had just musical chaired it. I mean, minutes, maybe even seconds before we got hit. And just so happened that I got in the back. So as you're looking at the Humvee, you got driver's seat, front right, passenger seat, rear left behind the driver, and then the rear right. I was in the rear right, and then we had a guy in the I keep noticing the motions I'm making here. We had a guy in the gun turret as well. So there's 5 of us in the truck total. We ended up hitting right over that front right passenger tire. So it was pressure plated like a vehicle borne, or not vehicle borne, but weighted for a vehicle. I don't think it would have gone off if a person had walked across it, but it's not like they were making the most advanced landmines, so it might have. But what appeared to happen was we went over it, And as soon as like the wheel left contact, so boop, boop, boom. So it blew up right behind that front wheel, all right behind that front right wheel. And it just buckled everything. For me, everything just went black. Like the last thing I remember was like lifting up, kind of like that. It's hard to describe. Like I'll put a scene in it. There's actually a scene from a music video, like Five Finger Death Punch. Love those guys, kick ass. But I'll put a scene from one of their music videos in it. But it's similar to this, but it's a whole lot less flames are what you see in movies, right? So when you shoot a gun and you can see, unless you're shooting a tracer, you're not going to see the damn bullet, right? This shit doesn't happen. That's movies. Explosions with a huge ball of flame and all that. Yes, they do flame up depending on what type of explosives are there, but you're you're not going to see that type of stuff in your shoes. I'm not going to see the crap where people are shooting and they pop a couple of rounds into the front of a car and the car just explodes. That shit doesn't happen, right? And car doors don't stop bullets, right? They freaking don't. The only thing that's going to stop a bullet on a car is the engine block, right? Cars are good for concealment. That's it. They're not cover, all right? Your enemy can't see you. That's cool, but you can fire a round through a car. It's going to go in one side and out the other, no problem. And it's going to pass through anyone in this area. I mean, obviously, depending on the round that you fire, but there's not a whole lot on a car besides like the engine block. Maybe if you hit the axles just right with a small enough caliber. Anyway, let me stop getting distracted. But it hits, right? So we go over it, and we happen to be in the only Humvee on our lot, the only one that we would survive being hit with that level of an explosive, because this thing was massive. So a lot of the Humvees we had, because this was still when we used Humvees, we didn't have MRAPs or any of that cool high speed low drag bullshit they're using now, right? Stuff with V bottoms, right, to channel the explosive away. We didn't have that crap, right? We had a Humvee flat bottom, and they had up armored versions of the Humvees. A lot of our Humvees barely had any armor, and we just welded plate steel to it. Just no bullshit. We went and got steel plates, threw it to the door, and welded that shit on. And then we filled the inside of the cab with sandbags down underneath us. So like underneath your feet, underneath where the seat, because there's some storage space underneath the seats, we were jamming sandbags down there because it'll stop shrapnel to a point, but it wouldn't have stopped this thing. This Humvee, however, was different. This one, it had, I think if I remember right, 4 inches of steel casing around the cab. Not the rest of the Humvee, not like where the engine and everything else is, but the cab was like a armored car, right? Just like a armored vehicle, the best way to describe it. It was designed to withstand an explosion. And that explosion came up and it basically crumpled that thing. And we got spalling, and tankers will know what I'm talking about, where some of the inside steel splattered off and was shrapnel and caught us. So I've got, some scars from it, from where it, most of it got stopped by the body armor, right? So I had body armor here, helmet. Unfortunately, I didn't have the padding and stuff that they have in the helmets now. I just had webbing, right? So hard Kevlar helmet with webbing to hold it off your head, but you could push down on that webbing enough to make the Kevlar touch your noodle, right? So if you got hit from underneath, say, like I did, you get knocked into the top of that Humvee, you're just hitting Kevlar into steel into skull. And that's exactly what happened. I was blown unconscious. So it hits, pops me up, and like I said, I felt weightless, right, for just a second. And it was like that millisecond where you kind of see like your life flashing, And I just had enough time to go shit and then black, because you realize what's happening just that like millisecond. And it could have been like the concussion of the blast did it, because it worked. We had 300-pound armored doors, steel doors. Took a couple of guys to lift one of these things up, and the doors were like buckled because it just blew them out, because the explosion was trying to tear the Humvee apart, and it couldn't. It gave it the right spots, because if it gave it other spots, it would have been giving on us. Most of the guys had similar stuff. Strangely enough, the gun turret guy came out the best, because he just popped out like a damn cork. He was like, boom! He landed in the sand over there. And when I got blown out, the pressure blew me out this way. I was already unconscious, and they found me something like 30, 40 feet over here, where I did my Superman maneuver and landed on the ground face down. I remember coming to for a few seconds, and I'm like dizzy, face down in the dirt. And I remember moving limbs, and I'm like, okay, arm's still there. Good. This is key. Is he still? He's still there. Okay, we're good. I can black back out now. I'm good. Like, they got fake legs. I'm good with that. I can live, no problem. But as long as old boy's still down there, I'm happy. I was asking later, where am I bleeding from? And lots of cuts and bruises, stuff like that. But nothing major that they could see at the time. The sergeant ended up taking the brunt, because as it caved in underneath him, he ended up breaking both his legs, because it just crushed right on him. So he ended up getting flown out to Frankfurt like immediately. The worst part of it, the two other gun trucks, and these guys, I gotta give it to them, right? These guys are heroes. These guys are, men among men. This is why, like, I miss the military and the serving these people, because they just saw us get blow up, right? We just blew to pieces. They ran in on foot to pull us out. No questions, no qualms, no shits given. Knew they were running into a potential minefield. Didn't give a crap. They're going to pull us out. Right as we get hit, my brother's listening on his radio, right? And I chuckle about this now, but you can't help but laugh or cry, right? And we get hit. They get hit. The decoy worked. They attracted an attack at the worst damn moment. we're done. So they hear it come over the radio. Gun truck, whatever, I forget it. I think it was one down. The guys are down. And my brother, was close enough to see the explosion. He could see and hear it. And thoughts going through in his mind right now is, my brother just died. Like, he just got killed. And then they start taking fire. So they yell like, hey, we got to go back. We got to medevac these guys out. He ended up having a rolling firefight for multiple clicks. I think it was about 3 clicks back to where we were, so they could help get us out. Sorry if you guys heard something. Wally's in the background. That's what we call our little Roomba, vacuuming in the evening since the kids are in bed. Anyway, yeah, he had a rolling firefight for 3 clicks back to where we were. And he just held down the trigger. Just and the reports that got sent back to base, that he fired so many rounds in such a short period of time, like he was just emptying weapons, just burning through boxes of ammo, the whole nine. They thought it was a larger convoy that had been hit, because he shot so much. He was shooting everything. Because, you can't really blame him. He's like, my brother just died, and then now they're getting shot at, right? Like, this is not a good time to piss this guy off, right? They were really, really dumb to attack at that point, because he was pissed. And the reports back to hire, like, how many gun trucks were involved in that firefight? 1. What do you mean 1? One gun truck. Like, come back, there's just brass casings everywhere. That thing that almost looked golden as it was driving, because there was just brass everywhere, just in it, on it, everywhere. Yeah, brass everywhere. So they go back. They help medevac us out. He didn't see me at this point, because I had already been dragged out with one of the other guys. They raced back to Fallujah, got us back to base camp. We were taken right to Fallujah Surgical. First thing I really remember coming to was this really pretty Navy nurse. And I'm looking up at her like, okay, am I dead? Because she's pretty, and there's not a whole lot of pretty broads on a military base. Like, I hope I'm not dead. I hope you're not an angel. Like, I mean, you're an angel, but am I dead? You're like looking around because just everything hurts, and I'm like, well, if everything hurts, I got to still be alive. So they get us treated, taken care of. I mean, there's like blood just pouring out of my damn ears, nose, mouth, shit like that. And the docs told me at the time, they're like, look, you can't run more missions outside the wire. You take another hit to the head, you're going to die. So we want you to stay on light duty for a little while. And I told them kiss my ass. And like, that's not going to happen. But we didn't have a whole lot of time left in country as it was. And it was after that all the problems started up. You know, the walking funny, memory problems, couldn't keep my balance, and a whole bunch of shit. Turns out that hit from underneath caused pretty significant like brain damage, and shit got wired wrong up in there. And the VA, they offered one time, well, we got in there, we can take a look and see about what we can do. And I'm like, well, you can kiss my ass. I'm like, last I checked, I can still walk, I can talk, I can function for the most part, and I can still handle my business, if you catch what I'm saying. I ain't gonna let you guys screw with that. Like, if I didn't have a decent quality of life, we'll deal with that. But I had 4 kids after I got blown up, so shit's still working, right? So no, you guys ain't cutting into nothing. Kiss my ass. No, that's not gonna happen. Funniest part though is I got back to base before my brother did, and I'm in a hospital bed. Well, hospital cot rather. They didn't have a whole lot of supplies there. You know, I got the IVs and shit like that. It was funny later, he was talking to our folks, because I talked to him in the hospital. They let us call our folks and say, hey, we're still alive. And of course, I'm doing the guy thing. Oh, I'm fine. No, nothing's wrong. I'm telling you, I'm good. And my folks were asking him later, like, tell us the truth. Is he okay? And my brother's like, yeah, he's okay. It looks like someone took a baseball bat to him, but, he's all right. Like, razor coated baseball bat, because it was just little cuts and all that other good stuff to go with it. I put in a message to the MP lot where he was located, where he's going to be coming back to, that he needed to come to Fallujah Surgical, and it's a emergency. He needs to get there now. So he gets back to base, and that's all he knows, that it's an emergency and you got to go. And he's thinking, my brother's dead. He's dying. He needs a blood transfusion. He needs a lung. I gotta go. So yeah, he's thinking, the worst. And it's about a mile, right, from the lot to the hospital. And he just flat out just runs this thing. And his fat ass wasn't exactly that fast. I mean, he was thinner then, but he's chugging along. Full body armor, weapons, all that good stuff, helmet, all that crap on. He's chugging. He gets there in record time, and he comes in and he finds me, and he's like, what's going on? What's the emergency? Are you dead? Are you all right? I look up at him and I'm like, them assholes cut off my cigarettes. He's like, carry me outside so I can burn one. True to form, he just reaches down, he hooks me under his arm, takes my ass outside, lights me a cigarette. Because when we got pulled into the hospital, we still had everything from the field still on us, right? So I'm covered in blood, I'm covered in motor oil, fluids, brake lines, all this stuff. All I got blown apart, sand, all over me. But on top of that is rounds and rounds of ammunition and grenades and all this other crap, first aid pack and equipment. Like, everything that I carry was strapped to me. Hospitals don't take kindly to you bringing explosives in there. So they had to cut all this crap off of us when we came in and try to make sure we didn't bring anything bad in. And I kept my smokes in a grenade pouch on my body armor. So when they cut all of my crap off, they took my smokes with it. I was pissed. no, you can't take my damn cigarettes. So I got most of that stuff back later. I mean, I had to combat lost so much of my gear. I mean, it was just destroyed. You're not getting some of that crap out of the stuff. It was torn up, but a lot of it survived. I have to give it that. But in true Marine Corps fashion, they went out and they finished the mission. They did it with 3 trucks. 5 guys are down. How many of us recovered? Well, one was shipped out immediately. He was hurt the worst. And like I said, that one still just, that weighs on me. But after he was shipped out, there was a couple of us that were put on bed rest for about a month because we were just beat to hell. And a couple other guys who got light duty for a while out of the truck to let them heal up because they had just contusions everywhere, cuts like the rest of us did. So they were down, those guys, and then they still had to go out and finish the mission. And it probably wasn't the best idea to let those guys go finish the mission because they were pissed. The staff sergeant was hot. You know, these were his men, these were his boys, you know, as he thought of it, that just got hurt. And those assholes did it. You know, they were not looking to go out and make friends, should we say. But my brother did go out with them later. Like, he stayed with me for a little bit, and then he got back with them, got back out. He went out, finished the mission, and the guys came back and checked on us later, bringing us stuff that we needed, you know, magazines and crap like that, because the hospital didn't have a whole lot. Although we were doped up on painkillers and they were just letting us sleep. And that actually pretty much rounded out my combat time in zone because they wouldn't let me do much after that. I kept telling them to send me back out. I was getting bored, and they're like, look, you're no, like this is just not going to happen. Like, we need to check you out, make sure you don't have anything, you know, wrong with you. And I'm like, look, I can still pull trigger. I'm good. And I missed it, but we finished out solid. We had some other stuff happen after that. So I'll tell you guys that later on. We'll do a separate video because I got so many like funny stories. And it's stuff you laugh about now, but you definitely weren't laughing then. You know, I mean, well, some stuff you laugh then, but like I said, you only laugh because you don't want to, you know, cry about it. It just lets your, you know, stress levels go down. Like, oh, we almost died. That sucked. That really blows. Good thing that didn't happen. All right, but anyway, that is the short, down and dirty, or probably not even that short. That is down and dirty of how I ended up becoming Gimpy, your favorite gimp with a limp. But like I said, I'll tell you guys some more war stories. You know, it's funny shit that I remember. Maybe see if my brother remembers some stuff that I don't, because a lot of that time is blurry. It's kind of funny. Like, after that, like, it's hit and miss on what I remember, and I didn't pick up on that for a while. Like, large chunks just went. Before that, like, I had perfect memory. I remembered everything, but after that, things just started vanishing, right? And it's messed up, and the seizures started after that, and it's whole big mess. But I'll tell you what, I'm definitely glad my bro was shooting straight that day, because I was pissed, you know, after what happened, how they got us on it. But that's how they got everybody. I mean, we came out good, you know, compared to what happened to a lot of guys. And like I said, if we'd been in a different vehicle, you guys wouldn't have heard of Gimpy, right? They would Gimpy plastered everywhere. It would turn us into a pink mist from the explosion, from the level of it, because it was a big one. I swear, I think they remember that they told us what it was. I want to say it was a 155, but I'm not sure. And just to show you guys that I still have it, this is a piece of my Humvee that my brother went into the field to get me. And I gotta say, that's some good shit right there, because what kind of person thinks he's gonna want a souvenir from this? So he went and got me a piece of the Humvee, and he wrote on it, "Nate, glad you're alive, love you," and his name, which I won't say just in case he doesn't want me, you know, naming and shaming him online. But that's good stuff. That's good brother stuff right there for him to take and actually go in there and get me a piece of it, because who would have thought that? You know, I wouldn't have been thinking that at the time, you know, with everything going on. but he was smart enough to say, hey, I'll get you one of those. And so I've kept this ever since. It's my little reminder that no matter what happens, shit could be worse, right? Anyway, that's going to be it. You guys put your comments down below, all that good stuff. Now, like I said, if this takes off, I'm just going to do it as like filler content here or there, you know, when I'm having a hard time getting quiet time to get a game to the table, just some war stories. But if you guys have some funny stories of your own that you want read out on the channel, feel free to put them down in the description, your name, all that good stuff if you want to. And I'll read it out, tell the guys about it. All right, you guys take care. I'll see you in the next one.